Hello and welcome to Note to File, a clinical research podcast.
A collection of interviews, candid commentary, and general nonsense for the clinical research community.
Check us out at notetofilepodcast.com.
And now, without further ado, on to the
show. All right. Hey, guys. Welcome to another Note to File Live. Sticky Notes, as we like to call them. How's it going, Denali?
It's good. I'm cold. We are officially, apparently, well, we're in December and officially feels like we're in winter. Well, not it's the opposite of officially because winter's not for another 20 days. But it's cold and it's snowy.
It's like cold up there all the time, though, right? I mean, that's like your...
It's our thing.
Like your thing.
Dude, it's not, though. Like, we get weirdly hot in the summer. I'm not compared to Oklahoma, but, like, we get in, like, we have, like, 90s, 100s. We get super humid. So we get hot in the summer. But, yeah, it's got, like, 9 inches of snow. It's, like, 15 degrees out or something. So, chilly.
Yeah, we don't do that. We got a light icing yesterday, and there were something like 105 wrecks in the metro area here. Every bridge was basically shut down due to, an insignificant amount of ice, but ice is a little different story.
You guys get ice and snow, though, on, like, a regular basis or not?
Yeah. Again, I think it's fairly, we might get a couple inches of snow at a time, but doesn't usually go too far beyond that. No. And even then it kind of shuts everything down. Like, it's just we're not built for it.
Well, and also, like, even here, like, every year, we do it every fucking year where it's like, yep, we're here, it's snow. People absolutely forget how to drive in it. So the first couple snows are always messy.
Well, people are idiots everywhere. So that's very comforting to know.
Okay.
Right. What else is exciting? We've broached 50,000 YouTube subscribers somehow,
which is absolutely wild. I think that happened. When did that happen? Was it Sunday, Monday?
So yeah, something like that. Sometime over the weekend or maybe yesterday.
Which that's
something, considering, only 6 people are actually watching, but a lot of people are subscribing. Isn't that the important thing? It's like running a company, right? Like, it looks like we have a bunch of users, but not really that many people actually engaging.
We could make some really cool marketing content, though.
True. It's true.
Although, I guess, like, shout out for folks who are listening, who appreciate the content. Like, we also appreciate you back. So
yeah, no question. If you watch this, then you're
all 6 of you.
amongst the most hardcore of hardcore people who care about clinical research and specifically care about the crazy stuff we have to say about clinical research. So shout out to you guys. And this is, that's why we do it. For you. Very good. Cool. I don't know. Anything else exciting before we go? No. I'll be in Houston on Saturday for SOS, what are we calling them? Regional event. So if you're in the area, give me a shout and you should come. It's free. It's usually a nice mix of people who run sites, some industry folk. We have, if you look on LinkedIn, you'll see that there'll be some sponsors there. There'll be some vendors there. It's a very low pressure environment, people having drinks and, seeing how they can help each other. It's pretty cool.
I think it's one of the cooler concepts that I've heard of. I think a lot of conferences do like trying to increase access to folks who aren't able to get to conferences, which I think is huge. And I think a lot of folks are doing a really cool job with that, like making them accessible, from making them free, making them low cost, making them accessible, which I think is really cool. And I think it's initiatives that we're kind of seeing across the board for some conferences. But I think this one's particularly interesting because I think the biggest challenge with conferences, especially like this, is like you can make it free, you can make it low cost, but like flying halfway across the country and staying in a hotel is prohibitive for a lot of people.
For sure.
And so I like the idea of like bringing them to the places and making it much less of an engagement too, because it's not like, okay, I have to take off 3 days of work and I have to book a flight, I have to book a hotel. It sort of brings it to somewhere that's closer, more accessible, almost even like shorter in duration. It makes it more impactful and valuable.
Honestly, it's a lot more sort of like financially viable too, because if you get like a sponsor or two, it's not an expensive thing to put on. So I think it saves everybody money. And to your point, like, people all over the country who can't get up and fly to Orlando or San Diego at any given moment and spend a couple days. So this, you get, a nice afternoon, evening, and we've seen some cool things happen so far. And then I don't know the dates off the top of my head, but there's one coming up in Raleigh in January as well.
I know that one because I'm missing this one and the next one, even if I'd like to go to them because it's right over my son's birthday. So it's the 31st of January.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not the one in Raleigh.
Just bring him. It's fine.
That's what all 8-year-olds want to do.
It is very exciting. Get Pokemon involved somehow, and probably it'll be fun.
What a day.
Okay, I'm going to try to share my screen. I'm just going to say right now that I recently switched from Windows to Mac. I have a MacBook, and I don't know how it's going to go. So
best of luck.
Godspeed. Luck. We're going to do great. We're going to do great. Oh, no, if you guys are listening, give us some comments, man. We want to hear from you guys. What do you want to hear us talk about? What do you want to talk about? Say something. Damn it. All right. Here we go. Did I do it?
Did it. We did it. I think this one is interesting. I think this came out this morning or yesterday, but talking about the impact of a deal between the UK and the US, sort of as a follow-on of sort of the massive tariff push that came out of the current administration in the US to put massive tariffs on all pharmaceuticals coming into the US. And so this basically highlights the agreement between the UK and the US, basically saying, okay, we're going to remove tariffs on UK products, but then the UK is going to then have an increased cost under their healthcare network, right? To have increased costs, so they're going to be paying more for US medications and the NHS, but then they won't have tariffs on their exported drugs.
I'd be curious to know, and maybe this story, I admit I didn't really go deep into the story here, but like what drugs do we get from the UK?
Yeah, I don't know specifically. And again, like, it's interesting. I mean, there's a couple different folks they talk to about this. I mean, you have BMS who's here is talking about like the impact that they're going to have. I also wonder too, like, I don't know. A lot of these things I think are fascinating across the board with, like, as we think about this, like, this is just like all the chaos that came out of the tariffs and the thoughts and like the panic ensued. Like, this was the expectation all along. Like, I don't know.
Are you saying it was a brilliant negotiating tactic that worked?
No.
Okay. Good. I'm glad you're not saying that.
I'm not. But I think, like, when these like massive sweeping tariffs came across, there was no thought or plan associated with them. And so we knew they were never going to stick how they were going to. And it's interesting to see how they're being addressed on an ad hoc basis here.
Well, I fully expect this to change by next week. So
yeah,
maybe we'll cover it. We'll cover it as it continues to change.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think, and it is interesting. I mean, there is like the concept of part of where this is all stemming from and why the argument of why this makes sense is because the US healthcare system is fucked and we pay ridiculously high prices on drugs, and all the other public healthcare or like countries that have public healthcare have much bigger negotiating power here because
every other country, all countries,
every other first world country, every other first world country has this concept of public healthcare, and so they're negotiating, and how they work with pharma companies is significantly different than the US. So we see massively inflated costs. So the idea of being like, well, we're going to change our costs from the US perspective, but I don't know. This just doesn't seem to be the.
Well, I guess we'll see. We'll see what kind of impact this may or may not have. It's an exemption that's in place for 3 years. I'm not convinced it'll last that long just because of what we've seen so far, but.
Well, this is, I don't know, maybe this is the cynic in me coming out, but like I see these things that come across as like, what's the title of this article? It comes across as like a landmark zero tariff pharma deal. And it's like, fuck,
Yeah.
it's going to be different in a week. Like, I
Yeah,
don't,
but every article I've seen with it has a landmark and quotation marks, which is a little bit like, okay, is it not? Is it a landmark deal or is it not? I don't understand. Are these ironic quotes or what are we
it's the
doing here?
journalists trying to slip in their cynicism
It could be. It could
over
be.
covertly. So it's just like it's hard. Like it's interesting, it's important, but I also then struggle to be like, I'm gonna care a lot about this and dig in and find all the details and get into the specifics because I don't trust this to maintain for any meaningful duration.
Yeah.
It's gonna change, something's gonna shift, and there's not gonna be following a logical, tangible or pathway.
Sure.
So I don't know. Like
There's so many things
interesting,
that-
but also like, dude, is this real? Does this matter?
time will tell. Okay. Anything else on that?
No, not really.
Nah. Okay. Let's move on. Another one that came from you. Public sector R&D cuts could be the silent economic killers of U.S. exceptionalism.
So this is another, well, kind of relating to their one, but it talks about a couple different areas looking at how the US is changing its funding models within how we're investing money in internal components. And it's not just research. Like it talks about immigration and, the like making things more political across the board, like different fields and etc. But what I thought was fascinating here was the convergence of some of the impacts on this, specifically immigration and funding for federal research. I mean, it talks a lot about the federal funding of specific research and how there are certain types of research that is never going to happen in the US unless it's federally funded. And that's a lot of like beginning stages of research where it's very curiosity funding. Like we're not chasing something specific because we've seen results and we think it's going to result in an ROI. It's like you have an idea or a concept and we're going to experiment, we're going to find things out. And like that's essentially meaningfully funded by the government. Well, what comes out of that is then all of the research downstream. So we experiment with all these agents, we play around with these things. It's funded from the government. The concept isn't that everything comes out of this and is going to make meaningful ROI, but that's how we come up with truly innovative things. And it talks about here, it's not even just pharmaceuticals, you're talking about other things here as well. Yeah, right there.
Yeah, I mean the internet, which is it's getting to be well known now. The internet.
May have heard of it.
AI, smartphones, GPS, obviously a shitload more stuff than just that. But yeah, I think that's the basic concept they're going for here.
Well, when you look about that, you apply that to, clinical research, clinical science. That's where a lot of the bench science is happening. And a lot of that research is happening at, state, federal funded institutions for those bench sciences. And that's where you get the commercial pipeline for therapeutic agents making it to clinical trials. So a lot of the experimentation and the science early on is being funded by the government. And those agents then eventually get bought up and result in meaningful drug development discoveries. And
but let me say, a lot of these research projects being funded are clearly promoting neo-Marxist perspectives or DEI tenets. And I don't think we just can't have that.
We can't have the commies develop our medicines.
Well, I have a feeling that it's Ted Cruz, Rafael Cruz, has really no idea what neo-Marxist even means, but that's fine.
I would bet pretty much everything in my bank account that he doesn't know what that means. But it's sort of interesting where it's like, this is a really short-sighted to say, like, we're not getting dollars out of this money we're putting in. It's like, well, yeah, but you're getting innovation, which long-term is going to be massively fueling American innovation. And this talks about exceptionalism. I think the other interesting piece in this article that sort of layers on top of this is that our approach on immigration is also going to negatively impact that. When you think about students coming to the US to study, do research, and previously, I think we'd been a destination for folks who want to be part of innovation and science. They came here to do research. They came here. And so you're getting some of the brightest minds globally who are coming here to get their education.
Yeah, 100%. I know you've worked in academic, research early. I mean, even when I was at university, it's a ton of international students who are doing this stuff. It's just
not
easy.
anymore.
Well, yeah.
But that's what this talks about, where you like, it's expensive. They're not coming because they're scared. It's expensive to fund it, the abilities and channels to do that changes. And that's also true for postgraduate work too, where different visas are becoming more and more expensive to sponsor. And combine that with a climate where you're not funding research, you're not welcoming people who could bring new innovative ideas to the American innovation landscape. You're basically cutting it off at its knees and saying anyone who's in it now and who has managed to get their thing past this critical, incubation stage, great, you're going to be fine. The people who are who have the money and the resources now, you're going to be fine. But in 5-10 years, like, where are we going to be? We're not going to have the new thinkers, the new upper coming in the field. We're not going to be the ones coming out with the new agents that are going to be coming into these things. We're going to fall behind. And that's not like a switch it on, switch it off. Like, this is a long-term impact that will take a long term to turn it around as well.
Yeah. So begs two questions for me. Okay. I mean, one, it mentions right here is that, we have until January 2026, which is rapidly approaching in case you don't own a calendar, or we end up with another government shutdown. So what do you think? If you're going to be an odds maker, what are the odds the government shuts down again over this? Not just this, but I guess there's other stuff that'll.
I think as a whole, all the Medicare, Medicaid funding piece, healthcare,
right? Yeah,
I think that's going to.
Those are kind of important too, I guess.
Kinda. I'd say we're absolutely headed for another government shutdown from just.
And then
putting my odds on the table.
Sort of like, very brave of you. You really went out on a limb.
What is it? What's the quote? Bravery is the kindest word for stupidity.
There you go. Well, and so here, Emerson, we're essentially getting to take some of the top talent from all around the world. Now it's going to be tough, and if it continues, it is a big disadvantage. And obviously, I don't disagree with that. And I guess my question becomes, though, would it be bad if there were a little bit more like parity in the world, like if some things were being created in other places? And I mean, look, in the title of this article are the words U.S. exceptionalism, which is sort of something that immediately makes me a little bit nauseous, because for fuck's sake, really, like, American exceptionalism is kind of a silly concept to me. Of course, every country wants what's best, for them. But would it be the worst thing in the world if there were other centers of innovation in the world? Like, would that be so bad?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's the same view I have on, a capitalist market where, like, you have competition that makes everyone better. And if you have a single strong monopoly or a single player who's driving it forward, like, eventually you get lazy and other people come up, and that evens the playing field until another person flexes and becomes that superpower in whatever sense you want to use that. So I don't think it's bad. I think it's just, and I think maybe that's where the US has found itself, and we now are at a position where that ebb is happening and is going to flow in a different direction, right? And that's okay. I think it's just interesting. It's the exact opposite of all of the mantra that was behind all of this, like, make America great again.
Yeah, sure.
Like, you are effectively cutting America off its knees. But again, maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe this is what the world needs.
Surely that's the last time we'll see politicians say one thing and do the opposite.
Surely.
It's probably just isolated incident.
But it is interesting because it's been a spot where the U.S. has held this, and not even just scientifically, but like across the board. Like, it's this concept of like where innovation happens in the world. And like for a long time, that was other countries. And but the US for a long time has been that. It's been the up and comers, it's been the ones pushing the envelope and where innovation has lived, and it's been open for freedom and blah, 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 whatever, all of the things you want to put behind it.
Yeah. And again, Emerson, the only thing that would concern me is the reaction of the US population to that change. Well, you know what then? You can vote differently.
Well,
and that would be, to me, maybe a positive reaction for the US population, is if they're like, hey, wait a minute, this sucks. Maybe we should vote for something different.
Yeah, but I think the penchant of a lot of folks will be to not look internally. They'll look externally to see where the blame is, and it'll be other countries doing things and taking things away. If people don't understand that RGB quote where it's like, it's not a pie, someone else getting more doesn't mean you get less, like equal rights is not a pie. It's like innovation is not a pie. Just because someone else is doing it doesn't mean you get less of the pie. Like you could still do the thing.
Yeah, but I got to have all of it. I need all of it, and I can't share it with anyone.
The whole fucking pie. But I think like it's unfortunately like a good chunk of the population of the US doesn't have that perspective. I mean, you think about that with like healthcare and jobs, like they're going to take our jobs. Like that's not the problem, right? Like I don't think people have the awareness or retrospective ability, or I don't know, to actually take that and make it internally motivating to be like, oh, I did this, I can make a change. Is someone else doing it?
And the quote at the end is at least, maybe of some comfort. It is a reversible problem, providing the U.S. government can act quickly enough. If research funding for tech is curtailed long term, there will be permanent damage to the ability of U.S. tech to keep up with international rivals. So I guess we'll see.
Gotta act quickly.
Yeah, well, I'm a little skeptical in that regard, but we'll certainly find out.
But anyway, it will be interesting to see what happens. And again, I like your stance on it, where it's not necessarily like, okay, well, maybe it's not U.S. exceptionalism. Maybe there are other people who are going to start peaking and growing here too.
Yeah, hey, other people can have ideas in other parts of the world. That's a crazy idea. But I mean, in fairness, I get it. If we're not creating an environment where we're not just welcoming, but fostering those, ideas, then yeah, that's probably not good. But
yeah, as someone who is currently living in the US, I would love to live in a country that is known for innovation and fostering scientific discovery and all of those positive things. So that makes me sad, but globally, maybe it's for the best.
Well, we'll see. This is what we wanted. So
the royal we.
Let's
be very clear on that. This is what the royal we wanted.
Of course. I just thought this was kind of a fun and somewhat interesting post on Reddit. That's again sort of a half event, asking sort of the community, is it possible that maybe not clinical research isn't for everyone? I genuinely believe this field requires a baseline level of common sense, critical thinking, and problem solving that you can't really teach. And I'm struggling with a colleague who seems to lack all of that. Which I want to pause and first ask you the question, because I go back and forth on this a lot. Like, can that level of common sense, critical thinking, and problem solving be taught, or can it not be taught? Maybe a more, philosophical question versus clinical research specific, but some people just seem to have it and some people just don't. And I don't know if this is a universal experience or not. Like, is it what are your thoughts?
So I tend to think it is something that can't really be taught. In the sense, like, someone who doesn't, like, I think you can teach people tools to get them to somewhat similar places. And you can give them you can teach tools and tricks to be like, okay, this is what you need to do, and this is how you need to think about something. And so you can get sometimes the same result with a little bit more support around certain folks than I'm sure you've had this where you've had employees be like, hey, do this. This is what I want done. And they just go and they get it done. And there's others where you say, go do this, and they cannot do it until you give them a step-by-step guide to do it. But then they can do it. They can get it done. And then there's people who you give that step-by-step list to, and they still can't fucking execute.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can necessarily teach the ability to be like, do this project to get it done. I think you can get the same result with more support and effort. And there's just some people who are fucking dumb.
Well, and I do think, and again, I can't speak for a lot of the other. This person seems to work at a CRO, and there's some mention of people who work at sites. I can't speak for the other areas. I mean, I think at the site level, it's definitely true. It's also somewhat unfortunate because, like, a coordinator really has to be really good at a lot of things, and it still remains like the most underpaid or lowest paid. Not always underpaid, but on the lower end of, the sort of payment schema when it comes to all the people in clinical research. So in some ways, though, it's a lot to ask of your quote unquote, I don't know, entry level sort of position. But I guess that's why what you often see is the people who are real good go to a CRO, go work for a sponsor, go work for a vendor, and the people left at the sites are often the people who can't really rise above that,
Well, but
not always again, but
I think though, like the skills they're talking about, like critical thinking and some of those pieces, like that's not necessarily based on experience either.
no,
That's what I'm saying. Like
100%.
it can be really good for an entry level person to break in and be really successful, but then there needs to be growth paths to like foster
Sure.
the other pieces of it. However, the question I have here is that like I think this is like I don't know how this is associated with like clinical research per se. I think this is the human experience, and there's
Sure.
a good chunk of the population who just doesn't have critical thinking and that level of cognition.
That's
And
perfectly fair. Probably more than we want to admit. More people than we want to admit is that's the case.
And so it's like there are some people who just aren't meant to have jobs that require thinking. And I think the percentages of people, like the Venn diagram overlap is off for people who don't have that skill set and people who think they have that skill set.
Yeah. That's fair.
But yeah, I think it's unfortunate that
I also think it's okay to recognize if clinical research is not for you.
For a number of reasons.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. But I mean, I think it would be almost refreshing. You see a little bit on Reddit. People are like, I'm leaving the industry, or looking for other people's tales of leaving the industry. Because yeah, I don't think should almost be more common than it is. It looks like you froze. So I don't know what's up with that. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. Thanks, guys, for listening. We'll be back on Thursday with an interview from Susanna Huff, author of Rebel Health. Should be exciting. As always, thanks for tuning in, and hit us up at notetofilpodcast.com if you have any questions or guest recommendations or just anything else you want to see covered on the show. Thanks, guys. Later. Thanks for listening to Note to File. We're committed to continuing to bring you independent and unfiltered coverage of the clinical trial industry.
We want to talk about what you want to hear. So if you have something on your mind, hit us up at notetofilepodcast.com.